Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. You know, I was just remembering a couple months ago when Republicans in the House voted to expel George Santos based off of allegations of ethics violations, right? Not convictions, but a report from an investigation plagued with shortcuts. If I recall, actually, 105 Republicans joined the Democrats in removing a member of their own party, even though he had not been convicted of a crime. And by the way, this was at the same time that Bob Menendez is like stashing gold bars from Egyptian princes in his home closet and being indicted on corruption charges. And the Democrats are like, sure, what the hell? I mean, we're all criminals anyway. We don't really care if he stays in. In fact, Bob Menendez isn't just currently still in the Senate. He's actually running for re-election. But the Republicans, you know, the morality party, decided the way they were going to get this country back on track and seize power from the radical left was to out-moral the Democrats by expelling one of their own. And I think you'll be shocked, I tell you, to hear how that turned out. Because as you could have predicted, a special election was just held last night in George Santos's New York district. And the Democrat in the election won by nearly 8 points, which means Republicans in the House, they can now only afford, I think, 2 defections from their party along party lines. And that's, by the way, assuming that all members are present. So congratulations, Republicans. Once again, you've played yourselves. Great work. Pat yourselves on the back. You're the morally superior party, okay? While the Democrats are laughing at you as they goad you into taking the high road so they can just replace your seat with one of their own. Epic work, as always. Here to discuss this and more, we have Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, along with Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts, also on BlazeTV. Also, check us all out on YouTube. And did I plug all the things?
Yeah, you did. I am a little disappointed that I'm the only one without "un" in their name. I need to. There needs to be a new renaming of my show.
I heard. The Pat Gray Unleashed team was giving me a hard time about that.
You stole the "un" from us, and we're a little upset about it. Frankly.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, you're just gonna have to
probably get over. Okay, I'm over it.
Okay, good. So this is just so frustrating to watch this play out exactly as you know that it's going to play out, especially when you have George Santos in this highly, Democrat district. And you're like, what are we doing with this majority if not just making sure that, I don't know, we keep these people who were elected into power so that the GOP can actually get GOP things done. And in true GOP manner, they're like, yeah, no, we actually don't want to get things done. We don't want to get things done at all. We just want to hand everything over to the other party and they can just advance their agenda.
It's like when I think about going to the gym, it's just so much easier to not get anything done. It's so much easier to stay home and not do it. So why go through all that trouble? And I guess that's the point here with the Republicans. I mean, I'm no George Santos defender. In fact, didn't know who he was until after he was elected. Never even heard his name.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I too am no George Santos. I'm not a George Santos apologist.
Right.
I'm not a George Santos fan.
No.
But he was one of our own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least he held a spot that was a vote that you could use, right? And it's not like you have to come up with some sort of lifelong commitment to George Santos. You're not marrying him in a ceremony. Primary him next time he's up for election. Beat him.
He had already said he wasn't seeking re-election.
He wasn't even seeking
re-election. He was just going to go away.
Exactly. So why not just let him go away? Especially when, as you point out, Sarah, and this is a big factor, he was not convicted of anything.
Right.
Yes, there were a lot of suspicions. Yes, he clearly did some shady things, but the people elected him, and unless there's some really overwhelming reason to do it, he should just stay in there until he's done. That's what they should have done. Instead, they gave up a seat for a few months here. I mean, it shouldn't make that big of a difference. But as you point out, there's a really small majority here. You had people like McCarthy leaving in the middle of his term. Other Republicans have already said they're retiring at the end of this term if one of them decides to leave early. God forbid you have a sickness, an illness, some health issue. This could get really upside down really quickly. And if you lose the majority, you're in serious trouble. This could mean unfettered Biden for a few months before the election and in a sort of lame duck area if he were to lose. And all that's really bad. So protecting this would have been smart. Just hold on to him, deal with the fact that, yes, the late night shows are going to mock you for him being on your team for a few months. Get over it.
Right. And I say this all the time, Pat, and I feel like a broken record, but I keep saying, I wish I didn't have to keep saying this every day. Who needs enemies with friends like these? Mm-hmm. What is the point of electing these people if they're just going to piss away the majority that they have?
It's a great question, and there's no good answer to it, except that they don't make much of a difference. They never do.
Yeah.
We always hope they will. We want them to. We tell them to, and they never do. But I love this new situation we're in America where just an accusation is plenty to completely overturn somebody's life.
Right.
It's the case in George Santos. I mean, clearly, I think he lied about some things, but he wasn't tried or convicted of anything.
No due process.
And you got the same thing going on with Trump in the Supreme Court, where they're just assuming he's an insurrectionist. Well, he hasn't been charged, let alone tried and convicted. How do you make that assumption and just proceed from that direction? And they did the same thing with Santos and just kicked him out.
Well, you point out that like we do this cute little thing in America now where we just totally upend someone's life and career based off of allegations, but you'll notice it only goes one way.
Right, that's true.
It's never the Bob Menendezes of the world.
No, and there's a lot of evidence against Bob Menendez.
Right.
I mean, gold bars are kind of a pretty good, piece of evidence.
Really, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know that they necessarily came from Egypt, but that couldn't be that hard to track down.
No. Gold bars are just not the type of thing most people have. You know
No.
what I mean? Like they might have...
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me you don't have a stash of gold bars in your coat pockets of your closet?
Not now. I paid for my gas on the way in with one, so I don't currently have any. But I mean, like that is a bigger thing. By the way, it's been going on for a much longer time. There's been a full investigation on that. Look,
Exactly.
Santos doesn't seem like a good guy. It does seem like he definitely made some stuff up and misled voters, which is a serious offense. But I will say it's not an offense of the level, like it's not like he, admitted to sexual assault or like murder. I mean, it's bad for him to do that. He should be like the appropriate punishment was probably him going away and not getting another term. And honestly, if it was, it would still be unfair to Santos, and he deserves due process. He deserves fairness just like anybody else. But it would be unfair to Santos if they threw him out just because there has not been due process yet just to see if he's committed any actual crimes. But I will say, if there was 200, if the Republicans had 245 seats, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to everybody else. It would still be a big deal to him, and it would be a big deal to our justice process, I think, generally. But when you have a big lead, it probably would not be that big of a story. This is a massive story because there's no wiggle room. We see how close these things are. I mean, I know we're going to be talking about the Mayorkas vote. Yeah. We're talking about, do they pass it by one? Do they lose by one vote? These things are happening all the time. The answer to this, of course, is to win more seats.
Right.
But right now, this is still a massive factor.
So let's talk about the Mayorkas impeachment, because I like to give credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. So great job, the House of Representatives. Yesterday, you found your balls. Congratulations. They voted, but this was 214 to 213 to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over his handling of the border. And this was only because, to your point, Stu, only because Steve Scalise, who was gone getting treatment for blood cancer, came back and was able to tip the scales. But 3 GOP reps, this was Ken Buck, Tom McClintock, and Mike Gallagher. Now, Buck and Gallagher, neither of them are seeking re-election, so they don't have to worry about coming back to their constituents and answering to them. So they broke rank again and sided with the Democrats. Do you trust a wiggle room of 3? Oh. Do you trust that there won't be 2 defectors who won't just join the Democrats every single time something important comes up on the deck and they're like, nope, we don't want to do it. And it's like, this is where we're at. So, I mean, I guess good on you guys, for finally impeaching Mayorkas. Now, is it going to go through the Senate? I mean, they need 2/3. No, it won't. But the point is, which I think Tom McClintock didn't get, because he said that he opposed this for the same reasons that he opposed what he called the sham impeachment of Donald Trump. The Constitution reserves impeachment for treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors, and Mayorkas is guilty of maladministration, but that is not grounds for impeachment. Really? Is it? Is that all that this is? It's maladministration. So allowing unvetted strangers, who, by the way, some of these people are on the terror watch list, allowing these people unfettered access into our country, that's not treasonous behavior? Making Americans less safe because you know that you're inviting strangers into the country and you can't vet them all, that isn't treasonous behavior? I just don't understand how we're living at a time where anyone, let alone 3 Republicans, can go, no, we have to listen. It was the same as the sham impeachment of Donald Trump. No, actually, now it's real. And because they've made this big fit about Donald Trump's phone call with Ukraine, now our own party can't say, okay, well, it was bullshit when they did it, but now we actually have a case, and I don't care what they're going to say about it. We know that we have a case to lay out, and we're going to follow through with it just based on principle. We don't even have that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I sort of get the point at some level, like, right, where I don't necessarily like the idea that now from now to the end of time, we're going to have impeachments in every single one of these
administrations. What about when there really is a case for it?
Well, number one, there's a case. And number two, I mean, I hate to be a kid, but like they started it,
yes.
right? Like,
I literally said that the other day.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. The very adult, mature stage that we're on.
It's true.
But it's true. I mean, like they did like this. This is a known consequence of their actions during the Trump administration. They impeached him twice. Really, the second one, they didn't even try to make a case. They were like, well, remember that thing you saw in the news the other day? Let's do it real quick before you forget it. They didn't even like try to build a case on it. The other one was just ridiculous, as we pointed out at the time. I don't like the precedent. I don't think it's necessarily a good one. And there's some argument that the founders actually looked at this as impeachment as something they thought would be more common and it should be used more frequently. And they did look at maladministration and said, well, that maybe that's not enough. But like, this is more than that. This is ignoring laws are passed by Congress. You have to execute the laws. They are intentionally not executing the laws. And the only problem I have with the Mayorkas impeachment is, are we targeting the right person here? Because, Mayorkas is doing this and he deserves to be thrown out. But he's not doing this on his own. Right. He's not getting direction from Joe Biden saying, shut down that border. He's going, no, Joe, I will not. He is just following the procedures and approaches that Joe Biden is telling him to, or at least whoever Joe Biden's handler is that day is telling him to, maybe his nurse, whoever's bringing him water, whatever's going on there. The point is, this is Biden's policy he's executing. And I think like Republicans look at this rightfully and say, we're going after him on this other thing. Maybe it wouldn't politically be beneficial to us to go after him on this too. But like, if you're going to go through this impeachment hearing, which they're going to do with Biden, it should be part of it. This is his policy. He's the one that is directing this. And I think, Republicans want to put the focus on Mayorkas because the border is such an important issue. I'm fine with it. He deserves to be impeached too. But let's not leave Uncle Joe out of this.
Don't stop there. And to Stu's point, Pat, I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced several times articles of impeachment on Joe Biden for that very thing. Because of his handling of the border. Irregardless, I shouldn't say that. That's not a word. Regardless of any other investigation that they're doing into the Biden crime family. Throw all of that out. You still have enough to impeach him.
You do. And you've got the two elements here. You got, they started it. And number two, same to you, but twice as much more of it.
Oh, wow.
And you can't get around either one of those.
Part of the rubber your glue clause?
That's the next clause after this particular really crucial one. What's weird, though, is they've taken to even calling this a racist move, that they're trying to get him out of office because of racism. I didn't even know the guy was, what ethnic background? It turns out he was born in Cuba.
Cuba, yeah.
Who knew?
Really?
I didn't know that. I figured there was a reason for Alejandro Mayorkas, but I didn't realize. I mean, like you,
funny.
he's
Yeah.
white passing. I had no idea.
Fair. I am
Nobody
totally-
knows
I'm
he's
white
from
passing.
Cuba.
That is so funny. I had not heard that. Wow.
That's interesting. Because I always think of Mayorkas, and I always think of Greek yogurt. It just feels like it would be like a
Right.
You'd go into
Yes,
the
you could see
refrigerator
Greece
case,
or maybe Spain or something.
Yeah, it'd be like Oikos, and then you'd have Mayorkas right next
right,
to it. And
right.
it's like, 20 grams of protein. Like, every time
And
I
it's
think of
low
it.
in sugar.
Yeah, so I thought he was Greek. I don't know.
Well, it turns out that this Greek yogurt is spoiled. It has gone bad, and it needs to be thrown in the trash where it belongs. All right, so let's go ahead, and we got to take a quick break, and then we will be back with more. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold. So I wouldn't say things are like stable right now. There's a lot of global instability. We've got, I don't know, Iran increasing its aggression towards us. We've got what's going on with Israel and Gaza. We've got Russia and Ukraine. And as we plunge into primary season, I'm just wondering, how have you sheltered your savings and investments from potential major setbacks to the economy? It is not too late to diversify an old IRA or 401k you got just sitting around. Diversify that into gold, and Birch Gold can help you with that. Now, gold thrives in times of uncertainty, times such as these, and it's a really important part of diversifying your savings. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. It's not going to cost you a penny out of pocket. I do business with Birch Gold. My family has personally done business with Birch Gold just several months ago. We are diversifying heavily into gold and silver right now because we're just looking at the 401ks and we're like, well, it just keeps going down. What can we do to help that? So just do yourself a favor. Text the word Sarah to 989898. They're going to send you a free information kit on gold. You can learn more about it, and they will be happy to answer any of the questions that you have. So just be informed. All right. You can do that by texting the word Sarah to 989898. All right, so, we do this show a few hours out from the time that it actually airs. So I feel like I have to say, as of the time of this taping, these are the details as we know it on the shooting that has taken place at the Chiefs Super Bowl parade. There has been a shooting, shots fired. And what we know right now is that one person was killed and 9 others were injured during the shooting. Of the 9 injured, 3 are in critical condition at this time, and 5 are in serious condition at this time, again, as of the time of this taping. So hopeful that we can determine what happened here, but I don't know. I just wonder if, I think we have there's a picture of the suspects in custody. And I don't know, something tells me that it's just going to kind of go away. I think the questions will just...
This one won't be at top of the news for a really long time?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be asking the questions that maybe need to be asked because it might not fit the left's narrative.
Certainly you've seen that recently. I mean, we were just talking off the air about this Houston shooting, and it's like, well, a shooting in a church, we've seen these things happen before. Sometimes there's disgruntled members or whatever, and if they fit a certain profile, wow, is at the top of the news for a long time. This one did not fit that profile, and I think that's a borderline psychotic thing that we do. I'm reading Coleman Hughes's new book, which is really good, by the way. It's the subtitle is like An Argument for Colorblindness, and he's just really, really smart and good. And he was pointing out like some of these shootings. He describes the George Floyd death at one point in detail, more detail than you want to remember about it. And then you go through the whole thing. He's like, you might think I'm talking about George Floyd. No, it was Tom Timpa. Was that name?
Tony, I think.
Tony Timpa, from several years earlier, who's a white guy. And no one knew anything about that story because it didn't fit the profile. That's just a psychotic thing. Like this, our focus on race, our focus on political agendas is so unhealthy. It would, these are real people. people that are dying, and it's really tragic. And like, look, we obviously these incidents are terrible, and it's every time we hear about them, you're just like, oh God, not another one of these things, because it's so bad for so many reasons. But like the focus on actually the people who are affected of it would be something that the news media could do instead of always looking for whatever political advantage they can suck out of it.
Yeah. I feel like we're living at a time where I genuinely I don't want to attend any of those. I don't attend parades. I don't.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, unless it's a situation where I know the area, I know the surroundings, and I know that we can carry. I would never be caught at a place like that.
The parades are scary. I'll tell you. I mean, we was at the game in Vegas, and like the way that it's set up is you have Las Vegas Boulevard, you have all the big casinos. Then there's a little bridge that goes across the highway, and then the stadium's on the other side of the highway. So you walk out of the stadium and you cross back towards the casinos, and you're going over this little tiny bridge with you're just packed in there. I mean, and then you look up, and there's Mandalay Bay. It's right there, the one with the worst mass shooting in history, and it's like. It's a little creepy, frankly. I mean, you wind up thinking about these things, and it hasn't, of course, always been mass shootings. I mean, sometimes it's people driving into crowds. We've obviously seen bombings in the past. I mean, it's sad that we have psychos that are out there doing this stuff. The media doesn't help by focusing on their profiles and glorifying them whenever it fits their purpose.
Right. Yeah.
And they won't focus on any issue that could really be at the root cause of this.
Nope.
They won't talk about mental illness. They won't talk about the crimes that are broken. We already have laws. We had the laws in place that should have kept her from obtaining a gun. They're already there. We don't need new laws on that. She shouldn't have had a gun. She was nuts, and everybody knew it. And her neighbors were saying, "Wow, this should have been handled years ago." So everybody knew about this person. Everybody knew she was a loose cannon, an anti-Semite. She was out of her mind and had some real problems and was a threat to society, and nothing was done.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Can put up the picture of the suspects in custody one more time? Probably Trump supporters.
Yeah.
That's my guess. So.
It's probably the same ones who got that actor in Chicago with that Subway sandwich. Remember that?
All right. In MAGA country.
In MAGA country.
Yep.
Downtown Chicago, 20 below. Chicago. It's definitely MAGA country.
So I'm thinking we won't hear much more about that. So I want to move on to House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner, who released a statement earlier today calling for Joe Biden to immediately declassify newly discovered information about a serious national security threat. And according to Fox News, who came out and did a little report on it, the threat now has to do with Russian space technology. Watch.
And they confirmed to me that this has to do with a threat related to space. We already have from our other sourcing that there has been reporting on the Hill that sources here have confirmed is in the ballpark, which is that it has to do with an emerging capability from Russia that would be of grave seriousness potentially, but that the threat is not immediate. Now, Congressman Mike Turner, who chairs the Intelligence Committee, put out this notification that he is asking the Biden administration to declassify this information and calling on members of Congress to come and view this information in the SCIF because it is of such grave concern. The National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, was in the briefing room today and appeared to be taken off guard that Turner made this information known through a press release, saying that he was actually planning. He had offered to speak to Mike Turner himself tomorrow.
Now, also, according to CNN, so take that for what it's worth, one of the sources who has seen the intelligence confirmed the information is, quote, highly concerning and destabilizing that we were recently made aware of, end quote. These are great.
Re-elect Joe Biden. It's going really well. I mean, just put it on the campaign flyers right now. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think we all would recognize that Russia is a threat, of course. Like, they're one of our main adversaries around the world. Maybe not as big as China, but certainly.
Stu, the 80s just called.
They want their foreign policy back.
And I remember, I don't consider myself the biggest Mitt Romney defender in the world, but he, I thought, made some good points back then. And that Russia is a threat. That doesn't mean that we want to get into to war with them. It doesn't mean we have to give money to Ukraine. There's a lot of separation points here. But I mean, it does seem awfully convenient that we would get this news as they're pushing for $60 billion to fight against Russia. Like, it just seems incredibly... I'm not saying it's not true. My guess is it is true. Whether we discovered it today is another story, but the release of this information as they're pushing to get $60 billion to Ukraine seems awfully suspicious to me. I think I really do take Russia seriously as a threat. I think we have to think about it. If we're not doing stuff like this to push back against Russian technology, I do think it's a major threat. I mean, everyone mocked Donald Trump for creating a space force. They created a Netflix
That's why I was
series.
just like, we don't have to worry about it. We got Space Force.
Space Force. Steve Carell will get it. But like, so I do think these things are important. The timing of the release of the information, though, I find highly suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because I just heard that they tested one of their hypersonic missiles over the weekend. Have you guys heard that too?
No.
The hypersonic goes at least 5 times faster than the speed of sound. So depending on where you are and the conditions, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 miles an hour. So it's pretty fast. That would get to its location quickly. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or is there a new space weapon we're talking about? But it's definitely concerning.
Well, I mean,
I like the point on timing though, because that is
oh yeah, for
suspicious.
sure. Yeah, it is suspicious, but it just makes you wonder what is going on within this administration that we just don't know. That is just, we should know, right? Like, did you see that going back to Mayorkas, that Mayorkas personally was the one who made the decision to not give RFK Jr. Secret Service and left a bunch of the reasons blank, like just didn't even care enough to even pretend, just left him blank. Just the things that we're finding out that this administration is hiding is just mind-blowing. And then it makes you go, well, imagine how mind-blowing it would be if we found out all the things we don't know yet that they're hiding from us. It just seems like, I don't know, I just feel like we could die at any moment. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, imagine if you were RFK, how you'd feel.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, and that's like, sometimes you go back to this where like, okay, there are our political opponents, right? Like, we don't like their policies. Everyone knows that. But sometimes you can convince yourself that that's the basis of this. Like, not giving RFK protection is just something that a bad person would do. Like, you have to be a bad human being. The guy has every member in his family's been assassinated, and he's going up against the two political parties. And as you guys know, I am not an RFK Jr. fan at all. Like, I don't like him. I don't like the things he said about Glenn in the past. Yeah, he's not my flavor at all. No, but either. Protect the man.
Yeah,
like this is a very basic thing that would cause, not to mention strife on his family and him, but also the country. If a guy who's polling at 14% in the national polls gets assassinated, this is going to be really bad for our country. Yeah. Really, really bad. And for 100 different reasons. And the fact that you wouldn't take that basic step when we will spend $60 billion on Ukraine and just constantly waste money. Yeah, I'm just saying on this.
Yeah, just batch, this latest one.
And constantly waste money on nothing. What's the RFK protection going to cost you? $1 million? Right. $2 million? Like, it's toy monopoly money to these people. And they do this because, you know what? They want it to be in his head. They want him to think about, they want to give him a reason to drop out. Yep. I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And then I want to get into the latest filing by the DOJ in the Hunter Biden saga. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Preborn. So last year, because of you guys out there, Preborn's network of clinics saw over 58,000 babies saved. Thank you to those of you who made a donation to help save these babies. And for those of you who don't know about Preborn, let me tell you about them. They work with a network of clinics that oftentimes they put their clinic right next to a Planned Parenthood or an abortion facility where unspeakable tragedies are happening every single day. But what Preborn does is, instead of lying to these scared women who come in there, they're showing them on the ultrasound the truth. This is a baby. It's not just a clump of cells, and it's yours. And oftentimes when a woman actually sees that ultrasound and hears the heartbeat, they choose life instead. I think that's like double the chance that they choose life once they hear that ultrasound. $28 a month can be the difference between the life and death of a child. That's how much it costs for an ultrasound. So what we're asking you to do is donate however much you can to save the babies. You can go to preborn.com/Sarah. Remember, there's no H. That's just an unnecessary letter. It is preborn.com/Sarah. So Joe Biden's Department of Justice revealed today in a new filing numerous photos and videos that Hunter Biden allegedly took of his own cocaine, crack cocaine, and drug paraphernalia back in November and December of 2018 that they say prove he, of course, lied on his background check to obtain weapons at that time. And the filings, I know you guys know this, but these come as Hunter faces, I think, like 3 felony gun charges, including making false statements on a federal firearms form and possession of a firearm as a prohibited person. You know, being a drug addict and all. Turns out you're not supposed to have weapons if that's the case. And they released a bunch of, within these court filings, photos and text messages from Hunter's iPhone where he engages in drug deals and talks about his drug use with his then girlfriend, Hallie Biden, who, of course, is the widow of his late brother, Beau. It's just so fun to talk about this story. There's just so many like webs that we weave in here. And here you guys are who are watching. Those of you who are listening on the audio podcast, you're missing it because there is a lot of drugs and there it is. Oh, that is my least favorite one. I got to be honest. Hunter Biden in a float tub just cannot get enough of his own naked body, which honestly, the first second that I saw his body naked, I had already had enough.
Really?
So it's interesting to me that he seems to not be able to get enough. But so the days directly after the gun purchase, these filings show that Hunter texted his girlfriend, who again was previously married to his dead brother, about, quote, meeting a drug dealer and smoking crack. He said, "I'm now off MD Avenue behind Blue Rock Stadium waiting for a drug dealer named Mookie." I wonder if it's Mookie Betts.
I doubt it. I'm going to go, yeah.
You don't think? The next day, he texted her, "I was sleeping on a car smoking crack on 4th and Rodney," which I'm like,
Rodney in the streets?
I'm also like, were you sleeping in a car or on a car? Because I would believe that he was sleeping on a car.
Or on a car, or on someone named Rodney.
Yeah.
Could have been.
I don't know. But so the text message from Hallie Biden, she responded, "You have lost your mind, Hunter. I'm sorry I handled it poorly today, but you are in huge denial about yourself and your reality that I just want you to be safe. You run away like a child and blame me for your shit. It's to be expected that you go. You prove repeatedly that you can't stay, and you really do work on yourself." I think she meant need. "It's easier for you to avoid looking within and cowardly to constantly point the blame on me." Now, just as a reminder, he faces a maximum of 25 years in prison and up to $750,000 in fines if convicted. But that's a big if, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a big if.
Big if.
I feel like we're going to convict him of all of these things, but in the end of it, he's going to get like probation.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if that's where this comes out.
I mean, they've got the photos to match up the timeline. So, like, how do you not convict him at this point?
Right. And I've always operated under this idea that if I did stuff like this, like, I would go to jail.
Huh?
Like, that's how I always thought.
Well, you would.
Worked.
You would,
right?
You
like,
would.
I think that's how it would happen. I mean, I understand there's a concept of, what's the point of doing all this crack if we can't take photos of it? I
don't think so.
I can't even remember those times. It's strange. I mean, we have these things called red flag laws that they're trying to pass around the country, and there's some real constitutional questions with them. But like, if we're going to put them in, I think we should include in the process dating your dead brother's ex-wife. Right, like I feel like if that's just automatic red flag behavior to me. I don't know. I don't know that it's constitutional to take your weapons away, but it seems like if we're going to do it, maybe someone who does that and is smoking crack at the same time is a prime target for this. I mean, obviously, like this is a situation they've tried to brush under the carpet 100 times, and I think it leads to something more important than his drug use and his prostitutes and all the other shady things he's been doing, including the gun charges. Which is that there's probably been a massive cover-up within the government to make sure that this stuff didn't get out. And we know that it almost got swept under the carpet. We were minutes away from this never, ever coming to fruition. Now that the focus is on it, now it's going through some sort of process. I hope we get to the bottom, not even as much as for Hunter Biden's sake, because he's a loser, and we all know he's a loser. But I think a lot of stuff happened at higher levels of the government to make sure Hunter Biden didn't go to prison or embarrass his dad. And the embarrassment has not been successful. He's embarrassed the entire family time and time again. But there's something more here. There's a reason why this didn't just go through normal processes, right? And it's because of Joe Biden's power and his family name. And we need to find out who was enforcing that name and the power behind it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as they talk about gun control, here's your chance to prove that you're serious about all of this.
For sure.
And yet I have no hope that that's going to happen.
Let's not forget, this is the smartest person that Joe Biden has ever known. So I believe he's just playing 4D chess here. He's doing the ruse of drugs and sleeping with his sister-in-law. And what he probably really is an undercover law enforcement officer who's trying to bring people in so that he can make a huge bust. Maybe it's that. I don't know. But this guy's not going to serve 1 minute in jail. He's not.
No, there's no way.
Just a two-tier justice system. There's justice for the Bidens and the elite, and then there's justice for everybody else. Any of the rest of us would be in prison right now. I mean, long before now.
The minute the police have your phone and they see one of these photos, you go to jail. That is legitimately how I thought this worked.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to ask Jeff. He'd probably know more in detail.
Right.
But it is one of those situations where you're like, I thought that was it. This is one of the reasons why I would assume if you're doing these things, you don't take photos of it, because you don't want to create a record that would then make it easily proved when you're going, when the police get in touch with this information.
It's so easy.
Right.
How is he not in jail?
Because he had absolutely no fear, right? Now, of course, part of this is the drugs, I'm sure, but part of it is his daddy's going to be there to bail him out.
You can't touch this.
And the other part about this that we can't let slide is he was doing things, allegedly, my belief, and I think yours as well, to further the illegal activities of Joe Biden. Yes, he was the mule. He was the guy doing this stuff. He was the guy pulling the cash in so that Joe could have a chunk of it. And so he always assumed he'd have the protection of his dad, and he did for most of this. So I think there's a much longer road to find out the details of that.
Pull up Hunter Biden again.
Oh no,
smoking crack.
Not in the water.
He's in the water.
Water one again.
Is that not the smartest man you know? That doesn't look like the smartest
No, he does.
man,
Looks incredible. He looks like Einstein right there, other than the hair.
Does that look like a top dog at energy company in Ukraine?
Hire that man.
Right?
We need a high-level advisor to pay millions of dollars a year.
That's what that photo screams. Hire me.
It was probably his resume photo, I would assume.
You know what? I was going to make a joke, and I am not going to. Never mind. All right? We got to take a quick break.
That's multiple times on this episode now. We get into break, and we're like, I was about to say this, and thank God I didn't. So the show off the air today, just as interesting as the one on the air.
We got to take a break. I got to take a break so I can make the joke. All right? We'll be right back.
Got something to say? Leave Sarah a message at 888-969-5113.
Last March, Iowa passed a law making it illegal for minors to obtain puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgery. And now, today, a bill currently sits on the Iowa governor's desk that would define man and woman based on a person's sex at birth, therefore being on, future driver's licenses, birth certificates, regardless of what they identify as. And so their driver's license would have their sex and their current identifying gender, should they choose. It passed a committee vote 15-8, with all 8 votes, of course, being Democrats. But it would also put sanctioned definition on the words sex, man, woman, mother, father, which honestly, this is very strange to me because I feel like we already do have definitions for all of these things. But the advocates of the bill say that without these regulations and sharper definitions, the public is losing single-sex spaces and resources like locker rooms, athletics, and prison and domestic violence shelters. Now, I feel like I'm going to lose the YouTube audience pretty quick here. So if we do, make sure to check the full episode at blazetv.com. We should have the Rumble, the segment on Rumble. But I want to play the rally that was held around the Iowa Capitol in the protest of this law. Watch.
I was really shocked. I didn't think it could happen so close to home. I thought we were a lot safer than we are.
Ivy Gray is a drag artist who transitioned when she was 18.
You know how I feel.
It has definitely saved my life.
It's a new day. It's a new life.
I'm
Oh,
currently on
no.
a hormone blocker. I've been on it for almost 3 years now. I'm afraid that I'm going to have to wait for like another several years to be able to take this medication. Transgender people
I hope
are just
so.
trying to live their life and be happy and be who they want to be and feel comfortable in their own skin.
I have 2 trans kids myself.
Oh, man.
This really is a day where like we really need the off-air commentary to
Not if we want to
on the
keep our
show.
jobs.
That's fair. I do like having a paycheck.
It's nice.
So I guess we won't. Okay, so remember, go over to wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what am I missing? iHeart, I don't know. There's a bunch of them now. But make sure that you are subscribed to both Stu Does America along with Pat Gray Unleashed. Unleashed.
Right.
Not Unfiltered.
Right.
I stole that.
You did.
Is Unleashed.
Stole the un.
I did. And I am not sorry about it. I want to be clear. So make sure that you go over there, not only subscribe, but rate and review their shows. Because here's what they did. They did this little thing on Apple Podcasts, at least, where we're now all explicit. I mean, I am maybe explicit. I don't know.
Totally should be. I totally support Apple.
No, but they listed Pat's as
I was
explicit.
explicit for a while. Yeah.
Really?
We got that removed.
Did you?
Yeah. Did you not from yours yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
Glenn was listed as explicit
Glenn
too.
was, like,
it's like, oh yeah, the Mormons are very explicit
Yeah, we're
all the
very
time.
explicit.
So make sure that you go show them some love over there, and if you'd like, Sara Gonzales Unfiltered as well over wherever you get your audio podcast, because I do think, Stu, this was intentional to push us down, suppress us in the algorithm.
Probably was.
Now, I might deserve it, but I don't want it. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the show. It will help us in the rankings. And thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.